So hello and a warm welcome to the Refreshing Views Observatory. What we're going to do tonight on this beautiful warm summer's evening is going to have a look at some globular clusters. Now we're going to see them firsthand through the telescope, and what we're going to look at is this really dense ball of stars. Really attractive, beautiful view in the eyepiece. Now what's really fascinating about these is these stars are really old, 10, 12 billion years old, formed way back in the depths of time, and they're typically outside the halo of the Milky Way, so they're outside of the Milky Way in the galactic halo, and we can see these objects, see them through the amateur telescope with this really dense ball of stars. So not only are they really old, but they're actually really attractive to look at as well. Now through a pair of binoculars, through a small telescope, you can see these really tight, dense little clumpy patches of nebulosity, and of course it's when you put the big telescope on, it's when you increase the magnification, increase the aperture, that's when you can start resolving them down into their individual stars. And what's fascinating about these is because these stars are so old, they have to be really low mass. They're much smaller, much slower burning than our own sun, and that's why they've managed to keep on glowing. And they managed to keep on shining through their nuclear fusion for so many billions of years. So just while we wait for it to get properly dark, I thought I'll quickly show you what I'm using for my observing. So we've got a Celestron C11, so this is an 11-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. I've had this for years now, 8 years, 9 years now. Absolutely love it, really nice, versatile telescope. And at the eyepiece end, I've put a Denkmeyer binoviewer. I bought this second hand on the Astro Buy Sell, and the beauty of this is not only do you get to use both eyes, you don't have to use a Cyclops view. It actually has a power switch, so without changing the eyepieces, I can move it from 0.6 times to 1 times to ×2, all just by sliding the switch across and of course refocusing. So really nice telescope to use, and just made so much better with the binoviewer. And because I've been enjoying this visual side of observing for the last few months, because I've got an AZ EQ6, I can switch it over from the polar view that I'm normally using for, say, planetary imaging or lunar imaging, and I've put my small refractor, the 90mm Meg Ray, on the other side, and that too has a binoviewer, and that's got a linear binoviewer, which is one of these binoviewers where you don't need to put Barlow's or magnification devices in. You can literally look straight through. You just use your eyepieces and look straight through. So 2 binoviewers, 2 sets of eyes, only half a brain. We're ready to go and look at some globulars. So the first one I'm going to look at is M13, Messier 13. So it's the 13th object in Messier's catalogue. His catalogue of things that look like comets but weren't really comets, were probably quite interesting, but he didn't know what they were. And this is really high. It's brilliant for us up in the northern hemisphere. It's really nice and high in the sky, and you can see by how high the telescopes are, it's nearly up at the zenith. So this is what I really love about this setup, is I can literally switch from a high magnification, detailed view through a medium-sized amateur telescope through what's for me is my larger telescope, the 11-inch, switch over to the 90mm, and of course then I've got this lovely wide field of view. You can really see these objects in their sort of full context. So I'm really enjoying having both telescopes, being able to use both telescopes and just swapping back and forth. So the good thing about M13 is not only have you got the globular, but just alongside it you've got a little galaxy as well. So you actually get sort of 2 objects together in the same field of view. Now what's amazing about this, of course, you're looking at a globular cluster that's, I know, a few tens of thousands of light years away. It's actually in our own Milky Way. And of course if you look at this distant galaxy, it's millions of light years away, so we're actually going to see time travel at the eyepiece. Right, what we're going to do then, having warmed up on M13, Messier 13, the Great Globular Cluster in Hercules, we're going to go straight down there to M53, and there's a really challenging object alongside it, but M53 is quite a cool cluster as well. So let's do a go to. I'm just doing this on my phone. I'm controlling the telescope through my phone on the red screen mode through the Wi-Fi dongle. So let's go to Messier 53. It's getting a bit low now, just as the train goes past. It's getting a bit low now. It's probably better in the spring, but we can still see it. And you can tell it's summer I haven't got my dew shield on, it's that much dry. Oh, look, it is getting a bit low. Right. See, the other thing I've done in addition to getting the binoviewer is I put some Ber Click Locks, and these are sort of ratchet clamps, and even with that heavy weight of the binoviewer and the eyepieces, I can rotate that round into a comfortable position. It's honestly one of the best upgrades I think I've done. It's one of those really simple accessories, but they work really well. So I can't observe, so I can't look through the eyepieces, they're too high up. So all I have to do is rotate it round and clamp it back. Even with that weight on, it still holds it really stably. Rotate that around. Right. Let's go and have a look. M53. Let's get that centered. So we've got that nicely centered in the view. It really is quite a cool object. Much smaller, nowhere near as detailed as Messier 13, but it's still really good to look at. And I can't believe it's coming up to about 11 o'clock at night now, and I'm still out here just in my shirt sleeves. Definitely can't do this in winter when it's -5 Celsius and there's frost everywhere. I know you guys in Canada and Norway will be laughing now when we say -5 is cold, but certainly compared to what it is now, it would definitely feel colder. So what we're going to do now is go to NGC 5053. It's not far away. There you go. Right. Just get this centered. Stunning. There we have a stunning view. So what's interesting about 5053 is that although it's the same distance as Messier 53, it's only a fraction of the size, a fraction of the stellar density. So you've got these really small glowing stars, but they're just spread across a patch of sky and you can hardly see it. I find this a really challenging object. It's only by knowing the exact position of where it is in the star field that I can see a sort of granular mist in the eyepiece. It's really hard to see, and it's amazing that at the same distance away you've got one that's sort of visible in the finescope in a small pair of binoculars, and the other one you can barely see. You can just see there's like a graininess in the background sky. Yeah, so through the refractor it's much harder to see. I'm not pretty sure I can't see it actually through the 90mm. Yeah, I'm going to say that's a no in the 90, and so I'm going to say it's a no in the 90mm. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to spring over to another one of my favourite globular clusters. This is Messier 5 at number 5, and this is another one of our best globulars that we can see in the Northern Hemisphere. So I'm just going to put the eyepieces back in position, otherwise they swing around. Right, let's go and have a look at Messier Deep Sky, Messier number 5. Go to. That is a cracking view. Let's have a look through the refractor as well. That is really good. I'm loving this view. I love being able to switch from the wide angle view through the refractor, really nice sharp optics, and then be able to look through the big scope, be able to look through the 11-inch aperture. Fantastic. So Messier 5 is a really good one. If you haven't seen it, thoroughly recommended. Much bigger than M53. So what I really love about having an observatory is when I'm tired and when I'm ready to pack up like I am now, I literally can put the telescope into hibernate mode, put it into the home position, roll the roof back, and then I can go in. Now all I have to do is roll the roof back and then go to bed. So my apologies, this video was actually recorded weeks ago. I simply haven't got round to actually turning it into the video, editing it down and then publishing it. So my sincere apologies for that. And the reason for that is, luckily for me, I have been promoted at work. That means I now get to take the credit for other people's hard work. Downside to that was that I haven't had the bandwidth, the mental space to actually put these videos together to publish them. But now I've settled into the role, you should start to see some more videos from me. Now, observing globular clusters is absolutely fascinating. Actually, when I was writing this and putting this video together, and I wrote the article in the May edition of Astronomy Now, it actually sent me down quite an interesting rabbit hole where some of these globular clusters that we see in the night sky weren't created inside the Milky Way. They're actually a result of galactic collisions, small galaxies, dwarf galaxies colliding with the Milky Way, and therefore those globular clusters have come with us. All the outer stars and the dust and the gas have all been stripped away, and we're left with these globular clusters. So I'm going to do a deep dive into that, go and do some interesting observing on galaxies that have merged with the Milky Way, and we can actually come and see their remnants. I've also got, and I'm meeting up with Mary. I'll be meeting up with Mary soon, so she's going to sign her copy of the Stargazer's Bible, the Collins Stargazer's Bible, so we can give that away as well to a subscriber. And I'm afraid, just because of the weight, it's going to have to be a UK subscriber as well. And I've also been sent a tri-adapter. These are one of these mounts that fit on top of the eyepiece, and then you can clip your phone to it and take a photograph, take an image through the eyepiece. So I've used this. We took some pictures of Saturn when I was on my holiday in Namibia. I simply don't use it. I've got my own digital camera and I've got my own high-speed planetary camera, so I'm going to give this away as well. And again, I'm afraid, just because of the weight of it, it will be a UK based subscriber. So that's the tri-adapter, high precision phone adapter, and the Collins Stargazer's Bible. So my thanks once again to the patrons. I've actually got an idea for a video to say thank you to you guys, put that out there and say thank you for your continued support. And as always, I wish you clear and pleasant skies, and I look forward to bringing you more videos as we explore the night sky.